So I'm going to put on a program about, let me see, Lucaston's films, the Jenga program #1. This is Myra Duckworth, all the way not from Coronation Street. I'm not sure if she likes that when I say that.
System, because it went. Hi, this is Brown Cherub, and I'd like to talk to you about my Jenga theory. Jenga is Swahili for build, and you may be familiar with the word Jenga from a children's game, where the idea of the game is to construct a tower, and each player removes a block or a piece of the tower and has to put that piece on the top of the tower without the tower collapsing. Now, my theory is called Jenga because I'm very much into and researching about removing the pieces of that tower and building and creating something for myself, my future and my children's future. The first part of the construct that I'm building is education, and very recently I removed my older two children from the education system because it was having a really negative impact on their mental health. Having been a teacher myself since 1996, I was very concerned about how my children's mental health was deteriorating, and made quite a controversial decision at that time to remove them from mainstream education. Over my 20 plus years of teaching, I've taught preschool, primary school, secondary education, post-16 education, English as a foreign language. I've also taught in special schools for children with special educational needs, and I've also taught children with behavioural issues. So I felt I had a good enough foundation and background to decide to remove my children from mainstream education and educate them at home. The main reason for that, as I say, was because of their mental health and how their being in the mainstream system was really, really having a negative impact on their mental health. And for me, their mental health is paramount. I feel and believe that education is something that can be accessed at any time in a person's life. It doesn't have to be contained from the ages of 5 to 16. And I have many other strong beliefs about education and how it can be delivered. More recently, since we've had COVID and the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, it became, commonplace for everybody to have to educate their children at home. Some people maybe more successfully than others. That is probably yet to be seen. But from that, I have been made aware that more and more parents are choosing to homeschool their children. There's a few areas that I want to make clear before I go any further. First of all, please understand that your children have a legal and human right. It is actually one of the human rights to be educated. So if you do decide to homeschool your child, you must actually be educating them. You can't just take them out and, let them kind of sleep till midday and do housework. You must educate them, and that needs to be recorded, and it also needs to be measured. When I say measured, you need to have a kind of an idea of what level and standard they're working at. These are things that I can discuss at a later date, or I can answer questions about later on and give you information as to how you can find that out. So the child does not need to be in formal education. You can opt out of mainstream education, but as I say, your child has a human right, a legally binding human right to be educated. So you must fully educate them from home. However, the notion of education seems to be, as far as I can see, quite a loose and general phrase. So education could be many and varied different things, and also from home could also mean many and very different things. You can access things in your community, you can access things online, you can access things from different parts of your community, or just going to particular events. There are organisations that set up support for parents who are opting to homeschool their children, or you can just go to learn, focus on a few core subjects and just teach them that. Going to your local community centre, your local sports centre, your local church, or other places of worship. There's lots and lots of ways you can educate your child at home. And for those parents who are wanting to opt for that, please do feel free to get in touch, and I will help to signpost you onto different areas. But the main reason I wanted to talk about this today specifically was because of the impact it can have on children's mental health. Now, being in education for over 20 years, I've seen lots and lots of children who, the way I describe them is that it felt like we were forcing a square peg into a round hole. The child may have special needs, special educational needs, they may have health problems. There's lots and lots of reasons. Some children just don't function well in large groups. Some children just don't want to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and start a day at 9. For some children, they have attachment issues with their family and parents. So there's lots and lots of reasons. I could go on, and I'm sure any parent who, like myself, has had an experience of their child being unhappy at school has their own personal reasons. But I do feel that what is lacking in our society, at least, is there are many alternatives. And I feel that I personally am looking into alternatives, and I would love to create an alternative education system for those children who don't necessarily fit into mainstream education. And, you know, I don't feel that a child needs to have a diagnosis of any kind, be that SEN or physical health. I just feel that a child should have a choice of how and where they want to be educated. Moving further into education, in terms of college, university, there becomes more choice, but it seems to be that generally in primary education especially, there are starting to be things like farm schools, Montessori has been going for preschools for quite some time, but for me there isn't enough. There should be a broader range, so that, you know, we're not still operating under a one size fits all, because as we know, as parents or anybody who knows children, there's certainly not a one size fits all. So for me, I made the decision because, as I say, mainstream school was having a detrimental effect on my children's mental health and well-being, and I just believed that there was no point arguing and fighting against the system. So the best thing I could do for my children is use my energy to make them happy, to continue to educate them, to help them to fit in with other friends. We found friends in other places. We did lots and lots of other things. I learned lots and lots of things at home. I accessed the curriculum online. Being a teacher myself, I was very much aware of websites that I could use. Yes, we are fortunate. We had access. I have access at home to a printer, ink, paper, and all those sorts of things. And if you're unfortunate, or less fortunate I should say, and don't have access to those things, then again, please get in touch, because there are organisations who can help and support you, and who will help and support you. And there are ways as well of not fully withdrawing a child from the education system. There are some education facilities that can work side by side. They can support you with a part-time timetable or a flexible timetable. There are education organisations who are willing to do that, and there are some organisations out there who can support you with education and that aren't even schools at all. So there are lots and lots of options, and I always feel that if you want to be free, for want of a better word, then what we need collectively is more options. We need more options that we can choose from so that we're making the right choices for ourselves moving forward and for our children if we have them. So upon making that decision, I had to sign paperwork. My children were removed from the school, removed from the education system. There is no money given to you. Now, when your child is in the education system, your child is allocated a certain amount of money. If they have special needs, they're allocated extra money on top. There's also extra money for things like if they have free school meals, and if you live in a certain postcode or area, and so forth. So my children were allocated a portion of money within the system. When I remove them from that system, the money doesn't come with them. So don't think you're going to get your child's allocated amount of money. You won't. You'll be left on your own to provide your child's resources. Once you remove your child from the education system, the school will notify your local LEA and let them know that they are being homeschooled. They will give them your details, and you may well get a visit from somebody from the LEA or somebody that they appoint to come visit the child to make sure that the child is okay, that the child is being educated, and that the child is happy in terms of, you're not making them clean the house, or you haven't got them working for the family business or something like that. So I'm just letting you know and making you aware that to educate your child at home is a choice. Now, going back to the mental health part of this whole scenario, it's really important to understand your child, to listen to your child. For me, my children did have special educational needs. I won't go into that too much at the moment. I would need to ask their permission to discuss that, and maybe I can discuss that in a future video. But yes, they did have special educational needs, and for me it was the first and most important thing for me was to make sure that they were happy. So things like waking up at a particular time, rushing them around, getting them dressed, getting them to do this, getting them to do that, watching the clock, hurry up and eat your breakfast, hurry up and get ready, hurry up and do this, have you done your homework, blah, 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 blah. All of that pressure and stress was just removed straight away. Yes, we had a timetable. Yes, we had a routine. Yes, they had to be doing certain things at certain times, but the pressure and the stress was removed. And I think for a lot of children who have special educational needs, and possibly children who have physical health challenges, removing those things straight away will, I believe, and it did for my children, help them to feel better. Straight off the bat, the mental health pressure, it's not a magic wand. You don't wave a magic wand and suddenly everything's okay. But for me, it did take off a lot of the pressure. It took pressure off the children, and it took pressure off me. I knew I still had an obligation to fulfill, but for me, there's 24 hours in a day, the 7 days in a week. So we had plenty of time to do the work, for them to rest, for them to eat when they wanted to, for them to go to the toilet when they wanted to, for them to have an opportunity to digest information, to discuss information, to ask questions, to discuss answers, to do their own research, to present work, to be listened to be heard. And I found when I used to teach in mainstream education that there wasn't enough time. There was never enough time to do that, have that process with every child that I was teaching. And I, as a teacher, used to find that very, very frustrating. So when I was homeschooling my children, they had the opportunity to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, my children were high achievers. They're very bright. They were doing very well at school. They were, when they left school, they were already overachieving in terms of the levels that they were expected to have for their age. So I didn't have the worry of whether I was doing the right thing or not, because first of all, I'm a teacher, so I knew what the right thing was to do. But second of all, they were already overachieving. They were high achievers. So all I had to do was maintain that level that they were at. They are both back in mainstream. Well, kind of. My oldest is back in mainstream education, but she's at college now, so she's able to choose the subjects that she wants to do, and she's very, very happy at the moment. My son is in a part-time course, but they supplement the course with other activities. But it's for children who have been withdrawn from mainstream education. It's called an elected homeschool education programme, and he again is just focusing on certain subjects, and he's attaining a very high level. So I'm not boasting, I'm not bragging. What I'm doing is I'm giving you an option, and it's a route that I took, and how I was able to take it. So if your child is not achieving at a certain level, I'm not saying don't homeschool them. What I'm saying is maybe you might need a little bit extra support. You may need some extra advice from possibly a qualified teacher, a home tutor. Those are also available. But of course, you would have to finance that yourself. As I say as well, there's also organisations, community organisations that you can find that will offer support. And if you can't find a community group, create one. You can actually do that. You can actually create your own community group. Let's not use the word school. Community group that can help educate each other's children and go on outings, do activities, walk in the parks and stuff like that, things together that you can do to educate your child. And just bear in mind that their mental health and their well-being is paramount. It's the most important thing. They can do GCSEs at any time in their life. They can access Open University. You can go to college. When you're an adult, you can do night classes. They can go to university at any age. So don't feel that education is something that's in a box and it has a time limit. It doesn't. And a part of the whole Dijenga project for me, or my Dijenga theory, is trying to shift people's thinking from being inside the box and just doing enough research to understand how thinking can be put in a box, but actually we can just kind of step out of that box and do things in a completely different way, or not even in a completely different way if you're not going to be that radical, but in a slightly different way. Try something a little bit different. What I've also found is that my daughter was able to go into college without any problem, having been elected home educated. My son is already looking at college places, and the college that we've looked at so far was not at all put off by the fact that he had been elected home educated and that he is on a part-time elected home education course. I think that is because of his expected grades, and my daughter got the grades that were required for her to go on to do her course, and the course that she's doing is now actually equivalent to A-levels. So what I said to both of my children is that many roads lead to Rome. We don't all have to take the same route through life. We don't all have to take the same path through life. And I think if you are a parent of children with special needs or physical health needs, and my children have both, don't, and I say don't loosely, I'm not here to tell people what to do or preach to people. What I'm just trying to say is you don't have to force your child to walk a path that isn't for them. We can be pioneers. We can carve out new paths for our children. We can carve out and explore different ways of achieving the same thing. We can create opportunities for them that possibly aren't there. For example, I worked at a school for children with special needs and was told in one of the teacher training events that I can't remember exactly. Let's say, for example, less than 25% of people with special needs are in full-time employment. Now, I've taught my children lots and lots of entrepreneurial skills, let's say, for how they can access money, earn money, make money online. And, you know, I don't want them to feel that because they have special needs that they can't access full-time employment. They can still earn money, they can still make money. One of my children suffers with anxiety. She's working on that at the moment. And so doesn't like to be in big crowds, doesn't like to be around strangers. So I've given her some skills that she can do and employ at home from her bedroom or wherever, as long as she can access the internet and generate an income in that way. So, you know, what we as parents of special needs children need to try and do is to give our children a different set of tools, give them a toolbox that contains many and varied tools that they can use and access throughout life. A fear of many parents who are parents of children with special needs is that, will my child manage when I'm gone? I'm not going to be here forever, I won't be able to help them. The world seems so hard and so harsh. You know, who's going to help them when I'm gone? So what we do, my theory, is that we equip them as best we can. We build up their confidence, we build up their self-esteem, we show them how to navigate the world their way. We help them to not feel that they're competing against other people. We help them to believe that they can achieve, and it might take a bit longer and it might have to be a different route, but they can still achieve. We listen to them, we believe in them, and if they're saying that they want to do certain things, then we help them to do that. My son, as I've said, is very bright, very academically able and capable, and he wants to be a drummer. Yeah, and I'm saying, you know, you sure you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, an entrepreneur? No, he wants to be a drum. And so I'm supporting him with that. I'm not going to be a dream stealer. I'm not going to tell him what he can or can't do. I'm not going to tell him what's right for his life path. I'm going to support him because as a parent who loves him, that is what I'm supposed to do. And I feel that, you know, as a special needs parent especially, but any parent who loves their child, we need to listen to them and we need to support them to do what they came here to do. And I feel that from a mental health perspective, for young people and for parents, because I feel a lot of parents are very disappointed and very disgruntled with their child's life choices and decisions and lifestyles, but I feel that much of that disappointment and that feeling of dissatisfaction comes from the fact that we had a certain expectation for our child. We already wanted them to be this or to do that, and we can avoid that type of conflict and, you know, disagreement and fallout if we understand that our children don't come here to live our lives and to fulfill the things that we want. They come here to do what they came here to do. We've all come here to do something. We all have our own passions, our own purpose, our own take on things. You know, we're all so unique, and we all come here to bring something unique and different to the planet, to the time that we are in, to the place that we are in. And, you know, children with special needs or physical health problems have also come with that purpose and have also got those desires and those dreams and that purpose. And, you know, we really need to help them to achieve that. And a part of my passion and a part of my purpose, I believe, is to help people, to help others. And especially those people who maybe feel that they've got an additional challenge because of mental health problems, because of learning disabilities or physical disabilities. You know, I watch the Paralympics every year and I'm absolutely in awe of those athletes, because they show me year on year that and I know Olympics is every 4 years, but them as people and those athletes are there all the time, so you can always watch what they've done through YouTube or through other social media channels. But they are such an inspiration when you can consider how much they can do with what they have. And I really feel that that is a huge social message for us all. We all have to, or should be, doing as much as we can with what we have, you know. And some people are doing outstanding and awesome and amazing things, and some of us in society are not even aware of the gifts that we have, or the talents that we have, or the skills that we have, and how much we have to share. And that might have been drummed out of you through parents, it might have been drummed out of you at school, it might have been just that you haven't had anyone believe in you. And I'm here to say to you on this show today that I completely believe in you. I can help you find a way. I can help you achieve. I'm not saying it's going to, like I say, I don't have a magic wand. I'm nobody's fairy godmother, but I am also a life coach. And, you know, it's all about perspective. It's all about how we choose to view the world that we live in. It's all about mindset. And it's all about having just even one person. I did some mentoring for a young lady who was what we call a looked after child, which means that she was in the care system. And I spoke to her once and I said, do you feel disadvantaged because you weren't raised by your natural parents? And she said, no. She said, I don't believe that you need to have your birth parents to support you. I just think everybody needs one person who believes in them and who is going to encourage them and help them to achieve, and that's enough. And I just thought, wow, imagine that, if every person just had one person to believe in them and help them achieve. And you know, I did a lot of research through my teaching career, through my coaching career, and I've read a lot of autobiographies and biographies of famous people and entrepreneurs, and I find that a lot of them, that is one thing I can say is a common thread, that they all refer to one person that turned it round. Let me do that again. Yeah, that turned it round for them, that believed in them, and it could have been a parent, it could have been a coach, it could have been a partner, it could have been somebody from their religious background, just one person. So I'm willing to be that one person for anybody who doesn't have anybody. I'm willing to be that one person for a person who's got 100 people who believe in them. I will be your cheerleader. I will shout for you. I will advocate for you. I will support you. And I hope these shows will be shared, and that you will like and subscribe to this channel, and that you will, you know, share and talk about it, and think about how you're making your decisions. Are you making informed decisions? Are you challenging the status quo? Are you looking outside of the box? There's a parable or a little story that I'll just tell you before I finish, and it's about the frog in the well. And you've probably heard about this before, but if you haven't, and you know, forgive me if I paraphrase it, but basically there's a frog in a well, and the frog is at the bottom of the well and is looking up at the sky and believes that the sky is only that big, because when the frog is at the bottom of the well and looks up, that is all of the sky that the frog can see. Imagine how big the sky would look if the frog was able to get out of the well. And that is my message to you. That is my gift to you for today. Think about how big the sky is. Think about, are you in a well, just looking up at a tiny little fraction of it? Are you stuck inside of a box that you've kind of constructed for yourself? Or maybe society has constructed the box, but are you deciding to get out of the box? Are you deciding to take a little peek out of the box? Are you going to decide to leave the box altogether and start something new and see what life has and what potential you can reach? So these are all questions for you. You know, do feel free to leave a message or a comment. As I say, I'm Brown Cherub, and I'm going to be talking to you about my Jenga theory, and I'll be talking about something slightly different next time, so I hope you will join me. If you do want any more information about the education system that I've talked about today, again, do feel free to leave a comment. And so I'm going to end there. thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, welcome to Moving On TV. And here is a little story for you called The Radiogram. Okay, the reason I'm telling you this story is because when I teach you to stay sane one day at a time, sometimes things come up that need to be sorted out. And with me, one of my biggest issues was analyzing, confusion and analyzing. I couldn't function for confusion and analyzing, confusion and analyzing. And so I thought, well, it's time to really look at it. And so I closed my eyes and I went inside. I went to my solar plexus area and there was a whole bunch of wires all mixed up together. This program is called the radiogram. This little message is called the radiogram. So basically, there were all these wires mixed up inside in my solar plexus. And I was taken back to being 4 years old. And when I was 4 years old, little Lauren climbed up onto a shelf and tried to bring down a radiogram, probably because she was analyzing, analyzing. She was in her anal stage, basic, trying to figure stuff out. So I brought it down on top of my head and my father nearly killed me. He hit me. Well, I don't think he hit me, but he hit me with his mouth, not physically, and really scared me and told me I was a very bad girl. And that, of course, what happens? That gets stuck in your subconscious. So when I was hit with confusion, and didn't know what was happening, I didn't realize that was my 4-year-old that was shocked. She got shocked when she got hit on the head first. Then her dad shouted at her. So basically 2 shocks, one after the other. And so every time confusion or Lauren got confused and didn't know what was going on, she was really 4 years old. So in this process, I went back into my solar plexus. I went on a little journey and I asked my dad to come back. And he was there. We opened up the radiogram. Instead of me having to climb up and drag it down on top of me, we opened it up. And we looked inside and we saw these wires, loads of wires, same wires that were cross-wired inside my solar plexus, causing all this emotional turmoil. We looked at it and Dad explained to me how radiogram works, because Lauren was in the anal stage of analyzing. She was 4 years old. Do you get it? And of course, as soon as Dad explained to me how vibrations and waves work and why the sound gets louder, when the sound gets louder, everything vibrates quicker. When it gets soft, everything vibrates slower and more gently. As soon as Dad explained that to me, it's like, oh, Daddy, I get it now. I understand. I don't have to grow up and analyze everything anymore and get confused all the time when I don't understand something. And of course, I got inner peace. Try it. Where did you get shocked when you were a child? What's your biggest trigger? If you get triggered, look at it. In the next few weeks, I'm going to look at all my triggers. Whenever they come, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to explain to you how I release them, how I love them, how I embrace them instead of struggling. I love my 4-year-old. If you have a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 7-year-old who keeps saying, are we there yet? And they're so confused and mixed up and mucked up, don't tell them they're bad. If you're stressed out, just say, look, I'm tired, sweetheart. I tell you what, when you go to bed tonight, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to give you a bedtime story and I'm going to explain to you everything you want to know as part of your bedtime story. Because you can make things up. You're a storyteller. Like me, we're all storytellers. So that's a little story about the radiogram. And I love my little 4-year-old. And I forgave my dad and said, Dad, I understand you were stressed, you were tired. You didn't know any better. I love you, Dad. I forgive you. I release this to the universe. And now, if something comes back to confuse me, it's obviously my little 4-year-old. And if it's not my 4-year-old, maybe it's my 5-year-old. It could be a 5-year-old that went through something, but we need to get in touch with that. I love you. Take care. Have a beautiful day. Stay sane daily. Bye. Contact me at movingontv1@gmail.com. And if you want to stop the bullying that we get, please join mychange.org and end the bullying from Rick Productions. And it's all on there, why they started to bully me, because I wouldn't work with them because they're slime. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome to Moving on TV. And this is a short series towards the end of the year, festive season, just to help you release things that may be really, really bothering you. If you get triggered at some point, then this will help you. So I'm going to tell you today about bubbles. The mind boggles, bubbles. Yeah, bubbles. And Bubbles, a 5-year-old who was actually triggered by bubbles. And this is how I figured it out. I get bullied. I get bullied a lot. Moving on TV gets bullied a lot, stalked and bullied. Or maybe that's in the past, or say we don't anymore. But you can sign a change.org petition to end the bullying and see why. But anyway, we are the light, okay? And I'm here with love. So the bubbles, what's going on with the bubbles? So I got bullied today and triggered these people. And I thought, well, where's this coming from? Because I'm not worried about them anymore. I'm starting to grow. I've got loads of support. Things are good. And I went inside and I was 5 years old. And I saw bubbles everywhere. And it was my 5-year-old. There were bubbles coming up all over the place, bubbling up. The rage and everything was bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up. It was 5 years old. My 5-year-old little girl was in the bath. And she was terrified of all the bubbles. I could smell the bubbles. You know, you don't know with children sometimes. If they're sensitive like me, an empath, they might be frightened of bubbles. Be very careful with your children if they're sensitive, you know. Make sure that you release the bubbles really gently and slowly, because if you put them in and they build up too quickly, you might frighten your child. And so the bubbles were building up everywhere, and I was 5 years old. And so I felt it and I felt it and I felt it. I let the bubbles come up. I embraced it. And then I was free. The bullying didn't bother me anymore. I was free. So that's what I'm giving you, a little tip today. How old are you when you get triggered? Close your eyes. Where do you need to go to in your body? With me, it was the solar plexus again. The whole body was bubbling up all over the place. You'll feel it. I was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. The heat was everywhere. My temperature was going up, bubbling up everywhere. Where does it happen for you? Get in touch with it. Love it. Love that part of you. Embrace it. And if you are a parent, be very gentle with your children. Sometimes the bubbles might frighten them. You may love them. You may like the smells and you may love the colors, but it might be too much for a 5-year-old who is very, very sensitive like me. I actually got shocked. There you go. Love you lots. Contact me movingontv1@gmail.com. I hope you enjoy these little programs I'm doing about triggers to help you with triggers. And every time I get triggered, I'm going to teach you so you can do it too. If you want to work with me, movingontv1@gmail.com. I barter as well because I believe that everyone deserves to be happy. I love you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey guys, welcome to Moving On TV, and I get to present Trigger Me D, Trigger Me Do, Trigger Whatever today. And today is about bullying and how bullying has triggered me in a way to feel the real feelings of a young little girl living in Israel in the fear of terrorism, okay? So I had a lot of bullying yesterday. In particular, I had a really, really horrendous comment that somebody made about my Jewishness, and very, very unkind. And it pushed Lauren into a huge amount of fear and sadness, and really, really difficult, really, really difficult. So what does Lauren do? She goes inside. So let's do it. So I am, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, young teenager, lying in bed, surrounded by orchards. Now, around all the orchards, the terrorists used to come in through the orchards, and they used to go and they'd massacre families that lived anywhere near. If they could get in, they would massacre the whole family. So my father used to sleep with a gun under his bed. Now, why am I telling you this? Is because I never got healed. I never had therapy, and I never felt the gut-wrenching sick that I feel now, because I've been triggered. So let's do it. What does it feel like, Lauren? It feels like nausea, waves of nausea. I'm lying in bed and the orchards, and I'm in shock. I'm not crying, I'm in shock. And I can feel it. I feel the panic that I'm feeling, that any minute now they can open the blinds and come in and they can shoot me or kill me or kill my family. Any minute this could happen, the same way as it's happening to other families in Israel. I'm feeling it. And I know that Dad's got a gun. I know he sleeps with a gun under his pillow. And I'm on the balcony. The balcony is my bedroom. And the balcony is the closest to the orchards. The orchards are all around. Israel is just stuck in the middle of everything, right? And I'm feeling it. This little child, oh my God. The nausea, and again, remember yesterday that I got the heat. The heat is building up and up and up and up and up, and I feel like I'm going to blow up from the heat. I'm going to feel it. Red is everywhere, not just red in the background, but red. Red is terror, red is rage, red is fear. Huge amount of fear. Feel it, guys. If you are doing this with me, I'm showing you how I do a trigger midi. God, it really is everywhere. I feel paralyzed. No one will ever do this with you live. No one will be honest enough to literally expose everything in front of you guys and show you. Like that woman when she took her wig off. I am paralyzed with fear. Little Lauren is paralyzed with fear. So I need to bring her in. And I'm going to surround her with love, because love is the answer, like Luke said. Come on, Lauren. I love you. I love you. I love you. It's okay, sweetheart. You've got me. They never killed you. I'm talking to you from the future. That's how you do it. I'm talking to you from the future. They never got in. The terrorists never got in, sweetheart. They never killed you. They never killed anyone in the family. I'm talking to you from the future. You can breathe now. Come on, Lauren, breathe with me, sweetheart. That's it, breathe. Okay, I've got you. I've got you. I've got you, sweetheart. I've got you. It's okay. I know you're scared, sweetheart, but I'm from the future. Look at me, look at me, look at my eyes. Look at me, look. I love you. I love you. I am from the future. Nobody died. You're safe, sweetheart. You're safe. You're going to grow up and you're going to have a great life, a fun life, a hard life, a crazy life. And one day you're going to sit here and you're going to tell your story. And that's me. I'm telling you a story now. Look at me. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you, Lauren. You don't need to be frightened. Look at me. I'm Lauren, the older Lauren. And nothing happened to you, sweetheart, nothing. No one died. And you know what, Lauren? There may not have even been monsters, because that's how the media operates. They frighten you. What if there were no monsters in the first place, sweetheart? And it was all a lie. So there's nothing to be frightened of. I love you. Nothing to be frightened of. I love you. I love you, Lauren. I love you, sweetheart. I love you. I love you. I love you. You're doing your best. I'm going to give you a big virtual hug now. And I'm going to breathe. That's better. And I know you've calmed down now, haven't you? Because I'm from your future. And every time you feel frightened of being killed in your bed by terrorism, by terrorists, all you've got to do is remember it didn't happen. Didn't happen. Because I'm here and I'm alive. And that's how you do it, guys. That's how you do it. So if your little child is frightened, you do it when they're a child. You love them so much. You love your children so they don't grow up with fear like this. So they can't be triggered. And if you're an adult and you need to heal your inner child, you do this. They're fine. You grew up. You're alive. I grew up. I'm alive. I wasn't hurt that night or the 6 years of my teens or whatever before I left Israel. I was never hurt. Never. Dad never used that gun, thank God. I don't know what happened to it, but he never had to use it. And now I can breathe. So that's trigger me D for today, or trigger me do, trigger me re, trigger me rue. Presented to you by Lauren Hope Glory. Namaste. And that's the way to do it. I hope it helps somebody. I hope it helps someone who's in a lot of panic. I hope you can tap back into that little child. If you're scared, just come to them as the adult you are. Or come to them as an angel that you want to bring in. Or God, or Jesus, or Buddha, or mentor, whatever you feel like. They won't be frightened then. I'm talking about the child inside. Your little child. I'm very blessed to be able to do this on Moving On TV. And I hope it helps an innocent person today. Namaste. Thank you so much. I love you guys.